Everyone, this was actually the quickest that has come on when the intro comes on. But anyway, that's why I'm so shocked. But once again, hello everyone that's tuning in. My friends are better than yours. I have someone on here that I've known for like 20 minutes. Um, if you don't recognize the name or the face, one of the reasons for people who are tuning in for the first time, one of the reasons why I this program was because I really have some dope friends. I know some people that do a lot of things and have done so much. And this woman here has done so much that um yeah, we could be on here for like 7 hours and still have more to talk about. That's not gonna be the case, but like I said, that's how in depth that I mean we're gonna get into it, but I just want to let you know that y'all know how my respect level is for people, and like this woman here has like my utmost respect, not only for who she is, but for what she does and what she's been doing for over the years, and probably for what she's about to do. So we're gonna get into it, and I'm going to allow her to, I guess, give a little brief introduction because I'm never good with introductions. So I can at least say your name. You know what? You know why I'm not going to say your name?
Because you're going to mispronounce
I, I know, but I always like I say to people, I let them listen. It takes the load off me, but welcome.
I love you, brother. And listen, my name is Rachel Noerdlinger. And let me first give you your flowers because, yes, we have known each other long time. So suffice to say, perhaps even several decades. We have come up in this industry together. The media landscape has changed before our eyes in these decades. And through it all, we have persevered and ascended. And so I'm grateful to you, have always honored you. You're an authentic brother. You have been who you are since the day I met you. And so kudos to you.
Thank you.
I am going on 35 years in the media business. Most people run from crisis. I run to crisis. I am a lover of crisis management, high profile media strategy, and all of the things that go into solving problems for people that are in the news or looking to be in the news. I am the only Black female founding equity partner at a global public strategy company called ACTUM. And we are now among the top 10 fastest growing public strategy consultancies in the world. And we're going on 4.5 years, and it has been a labor of love, helping to be an architect of something that I'm seeing in real time is representing some of the most important people and issues, campaigns, and brands in the world. And so it feels really, really good. And I'm just grateful to be with you.
Now, I'm probably going to thank you like 70 times throughout this conversation, so bear with me. But one of the things I do appreciate about knowing you is that, as you stated, that I've always been genuine, you've always been genuine. And of course, me being a journalist slash writer slash whatever you want to call me, I deal with basically everybody, in a different fashion than you. But the one thing that I can always state with you is that anything that has to do with anything that I can come to you, I know that even if nothing can be done, I can get a direct answer. Where we're in this industry where I have the industry cosign, but I've also worked for Black Enterprise, The Root, Vibe, The Source, so many publications over the years that once I leave a publication and I still, because industry cosign actually turns 23 in 4 days. March 15th, it'll be 23.
Wow.
I'm happy about that.
That's
But
big.
if I'm not doing industry cosign, all of a sudden my email box is, which is I get so many emails. I want to get a break. Sometimes I want to leave so I can get a break. But I've always appreciated like you and a few other people I hold near the dear because you're always there if I ever need. And like I said, you've invited me to so many events over the years, and I'm like, I'm going to be in a room with these esteemed people. Like, why would she invite me? But then I had to get over myself because I've had people say to me, it's like, you don't realize who you are.
Yes.
But it's like, but at the same time, I kind of do. But we're in an industry where everyone thinks that there's somebody more important than they are. And I never want anybody to look at me in that aspect. So I always take a step back, survey the situation, and then definitely give thanks. So I got all that out the way. So I don't even know where to start. Actually, you know what? Let's start with why crisis management and how did you get into this aspect of the game? Because, yeah, like you said, people run from it, and you're like, come on, bring it on, bring it on.
So, look, I grew up in chaos. I moved almost 20 times in my childhood. I was in a home which was, my father was an astrophysicist, my mother an artist. They were very, very liberal and progressive, and I had a very, pretty wild childhood. And so chaos and crisis was something that I knew from day one. And I realized as a child growing up in an environment of chaos and crisis that it was innately in my DNA to try to help people and fix problems that perhaps I couldn't fix for myself as a baby or a child. And so I got into media and publicity after going to grad school at Columbia. I actually dropped out. Initially, I thought I was going to be a teacher. And I was in grad school, and I had just come from living in Gambia, West Africa for a year, where I was teaching English to 8th grade students. I was the coach of the young boys soccer team, but I didn't quite know what I wanted my career trajectory to be. And so I got into grad school, came to New York, and it must have been the third week of me sitting in class that I knew it just wasn't for me. Like, this is not what I want to do. And back in the day, this is 93, people used flyers. And I saw a flyer that was like, a friend of mine showed me of a woman that was looking for interns. And she was, from what I was told, the preeminent publicist in the country, not Black, because she is a Black woman, but just period. A woman named Terry Williams. She represented Janet Jackson, Eddie Murphy, I mean, you name it, film companies, Fortune 10 companies. I went the next day and applied for the internship, and I got it. She adopted me that day. This woman was boot camp, but she taught me everything I know. I ended up ultimately leaving her company as vice president. And when I left as vice president, I started my own shop. And my first clients were attorney Johnny Cochran and Reverend Sharpton. Those were my first 2 paying clients in my new company that was doing, publicity and a lot of coalition building, community engagement, galvanizing people. These days it's not enough to just do publicity. You have to have a kitchen cabinet, a list of validators, people that will lift your product or your campaign or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I learned the art of media through Terry, but Reverend Al and Johnny taught me a lot about community engagement and coalition building. And so now I've sort of I've become a Jill of both trades, and I fuse both of those in my practices every single day. As I said, I started this consultancy with some other folks about 4.5 years ago. And we are now on the trajectory to do a very huge acquisition in the very near future. So we're going to be very, very, very big. We are doing some really significant things in many different landscapes. And I'm blessed and I'm happy.
Now, the funny thing is that another reason why I enjoy doing these things, because as long as I can know you, that does, and I say this all the time, just because I've known you for years doesn't mean I know you. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be things that I'm going to hear today, because this has happened in every episode I've done. And it's like, I didn't know that. And you actually reminded me about the Terry Williams aspect, because I completely forgot about that until just right now when you said it. But like you came in under an esteem, 3 esteemed people like right away. So it's like, so you are definitely headed for greatness, even if you don't want to hear that, based on like the first 3 people that you've come in contact with. Now, as far as the work that you do and the type of things that you do, I'm pretty sure, I'm not gonna say I know, but I'm pretty sure that you're approached like, you probably got 10 phone calls in the last 4 seconds, But how do you take on, or how do you decide when you're going to take on a client or a cause or something that would not only because I know for you it's not about getting paid, it's about what comes with it.
That's
while
right.
getting paid. How do you come to those decisions, and what and it seems like, now of course I don't know everything and everyone you worked with, but it seems as if you're winning every time. But like I said, that's from the outside looking in, which is always good, because in this world, like, perception is everything. And that's not to say that you're not doing anything, but like I said, how do you come to the decision to work with the causes, people, organizations, or anything that you do?
Look, there are definitely some things I won't take on. If it hurts our people, if it's antithetical to the needs and values of us, bye. I don't need it. I actually do love money. I am a bit of a capitalist. And so I don't often turn things down. I always find a way to look at things through the lens of, how can I shift this narrative to actually be advantageous to us, right? It could be something, obscure, that I just find some kind of strategic way to make it make sense. I do a lot of projects that are passion driven, which is why I succeed often on them. But I truly just love narrative building and storytelling and shaping visions and ideologies. And I love watching something start, as an egg, as a baby, and blossom into really great things. I've been with Reverend Sharpton now since 1998. When I've started with him, people were like hanging up in my face. Nobody knew. They knew who he was, because he certainly predated. He's New York history. He's been an activist and
Civil rights history
for a long time. But what I did was help to shift a bit of the trajectory to be a little more mainstream, and we started to move into a new sort of position, whereas now a lot of people know who National Action Network is, but it wasn't always the case. And in my tenure with him, we have done the most historic civil rights cases in this generation. Whether it was Trayvon Martin, whether it was Sean Bell, whether it was Amadou Diallo, whether it was Abner Louima, the list goes on and on and on. I've been the one behind the scenes that has had to amplify the tragedies of many of our plights. And then I also get to amplify things that are historic in a great way too, and so I've learned from those two greats. Johnny was an amazing human. When he came to New York, he had just won the OJ case. He had a show on Court TV called The Cochran Files. And he needed to be integrated. He's not from New York. He wanted to be sort of integrated into the New York lifestyle, try to understand who's who and what's what. And we just set it off. We had a very symbiotic relationship. We had a really great friendship, and he was such a good man. Rev Al is big bro. He's my confidant. He and I speak every single day for the last 28 years, at the break of dawn, to have our war room strategy, put together the plan of what we want to tackle, what needs to be amplified, whom can we help? A lot of it is about helping. How can we help our people? And so that's sort of the common thread in what I do. And even at this, now very, very high profile entity that I'm helping to run, I still look at things through that same lens. Whether it's me working with FIFA and the World Cup, the question in my mind is, how can those tickets be affordable to our people? How can we have engagement in our outer boroughs? Yep. And so I always find that way to make it about us.
See, the only problem I'm having right now is that I have too many questions in my mind to ask, and I'm trying to figure out how to position things, because there's so much to speak on. But I want to hone in on this for 1 second, because on the aspect of helping people, because y'all have been involved with so many distrust and things that were, made against us as Black people. Like you said, you named some of them. And how is it that you're able to focus on doing what you need to do amongst the tragedy of the work that's involved in it?
We often get very, very close to the people that have been victimized.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes us fight harder because we really know to this day, literally today, Corey Wise, he was a part of the Exonerated Five, used to be the Central Park Five. That man is at National Action Network every single Saturday to this day. Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, is at National Action Network every single Saturday. And this is years after we helped. And let me be perfectly 100 with you. Reverend Sharpton and Nan do not take a dollar from these lawsuits, not a penny. There's this disinformation that is spread for years that somehow, we're getting paid. No, nobody is getting paid at all when we take on these cases. The payment is justice and being able to turn demonstration into legislation, finding a way to make sure that somehow these issues get to the forefront so that we can have change in the law, change in humanity, change in the way we think, whatever the change may be. Change and action are sort of the common threads in what I've done with Rev Al over the years.
That's good. I'm still going through my mind. I'm like, okay, what am I gonna say next? What am I gonna say next? As if this is my first time I've ever done an interview. But let's focus on ACTUM, because that's your baby now. And why was it started? Of course. Now this is the thing, because when people ask about why things are started, I'm like, we don't always know the answer or the reason.
I know the reason.
But that's what I say. So it's like, but from
I know the reason.
Of course, the reason. I'm just talking about as far as even me as an interviewer, to ask questions that I could probably research or look up. But I always say to people that sometimes you have to ask somebody. The advantage I have is, like I said, I know you. If I didn't know you, it would be completely different, because I wouldn't know how to ask certain things. So for me, it's just a matter of knowing that, of course, you're going to give the answer. I'm not even worried about that. But I just want people to realize, why was it started, and what is the goal, and how, where do ACTUM in 15, 20 years? Because I'm pretty sure that you'll be around if that's what you want.
So it started 4.5 years ago. Myself and about 11 others, mostly men, were at another public strategy consultancy. And it was owned in part by a giant advertising entity. And it was a bad marriage. We weren't happy. We did not feel like we were getting our worth. And so we all, as sort of the top earners at this other consultancy, we decided that we were going to flee. And we decided we were going to start our own public strategy consultancy modeled after what we strongly believe in. And it's a bipartisan consultancy. So it's mostly Democratic, but there are some times that, to get things done in Washington, and I have a Washington office, we have a New York office, we have a Los Angeles office, we have a Sacramento office, we have a London office, and we're moving into other places very, very quickly. But to get anything done in these times, you have to have a bit of a bipartisan, view on things. And so, look, we exist, like I said earlier, to solve problems. People basically pay us to think and come up with a strategy and then execute on that strategy. The key is the execution, because most anybody can think. And these days you have robots to think for you. So the execution, the robot cannot do. And that's what we're really, really good at. Where do we want to be? We want to be $1 billion company. And to be frank with you, we're on our way. We're doing very, very well. And with some new acquisitions that are on the horizon, it's going to be sooner than later. I don't ever see myself quitting what I love, which is, helping us in media narratives. Might that shift someday? I'm 55 now. Who knows? I'm not tired yet. I have more energy than I've had since in decades. There's something happening. I've been vegan 3 years, and so 3.5.
That could be it.
Since that time, my whole energy, my discernment, everything has really. I truly kid you not. I could beat a 25-year-old in a race. Like I feel that good.
Yeah, I've been focusing more on my health too, but I just love
You
meat.
look good.
Thank you.
Your hair is speaking to me.
Thank you. Um, so I know you probably get this question often or just in conversation because of the type of world we live in as far as male dominated. So you being not only the only female equity partner, but as a black woman, as a minority, like, and I'm not talking just company wise, just in general.
Yeah.
How is it that you're able to um go through life? And when I say through life, of course I mean through work, and you're also a mother, a grandmother. So it's like you have so many roles where they're all leading roles. And in this society, especially with the administration we have now that wants it to go back to
Yeah.
years that we don't want to talk about, like,
Facts.
how do you keep the energy to continue to be focused as a strong woman that you are, still having to fight? Because regardless of what I know, I'm never gonna have the fight that you have.
Yeah. Thank you
Like,
for
but
thank you for knowing that and seeing that, brother. Listen, my nickname is Shotgun Shorty. So there's no room that you could put me in that I'm not going to fight. I am an athlete by nature. I've always been a fighter. I was raised with three brothers. And so I've been scrapping since I was a child. But what I have versus some others is also emotional intelligence, because when you're a woman, you also have to be able to think with some compassion, with some empathy, with trying to look at things from the lens of a lens that only a Black woman can, quite frankly.
yeah.
And so it's the shotgun shorty combined with the emotional discernment that allows me to really be who I am. And one of the most important things to me is lifting as I climb. One of the favorite things that I did last year was I found, I told you we're starting to do more and more acquisitions. I came across a company led by a powerful, strong Black woman that was a genius in experiential marketing. And I set my eyes on her and her company and presented it to the partnership. And she and her company, which was Sky Blue Media, is now Actum, because I saw something in her that was super, super powerful. And so this woman, Rakia Reynolds, is now a partner. And so I have a sister, and I have another sister that's also a partner now, Senator LaFonza Butler, who was a senator from California, made history there. Powerful sister, union driven, got her, she's a negotiator worked in the unions for years. And so we've got now a trifecta of Black women and other women. We actually just also acquired a company in LA led by two white women. So we're really changing the demo of who we are because we understand what America looks like now. The last time I saw the census coming, I think it's, Black and brown were the majority. And so companies, campaigns, everyone now has to look at it like that because we're the majority.
And a great majority of that at that.
Amen.
You also work in the health equity space as well.
I do.
Um, what what is your role, so to speak?
Yeah.
And
I helped found something called the Health Equity Coalition, which looks to different issues in the health space to make sure that we are being represented. We are in a state of emergency with the Medicaid cuts, with Medicare cuts, with all of the things that are happening to us in Washington. It is imperative that there are folks that are still pushing hard for equity. Um, Health equity to me also is wellness. I've adopted a hotel in Costa Rica that I'm now in partnership with. And it's an entirely vegan, 5-star luxury vegan hotel. And I'm doing with the hotel my first wellness retreat next month. It's with two strong brothers. One is a bodybuilder and another is a vegan influencer. And so we're going to do like a 4-day boot camp of wellness. And so Queen Afua introduced me to this lifestyle by way of Erica Ford and Kepra Kears, who are two of my best friends. We call ourselves the Golden Girls. And they introduced me to this wellness space, and I feel so good. I can't go back.
Yeah, I need to join you there because I'm not getting any younger either. So, but what of course, it's an important fight with the equity aspect for people of color and just people in general. How do you feel that going forward, especially with the current administration? I might say that a couple of times during this conversation. And what we've seen in the past year and a half or so, with especially with health being like in crisis mode, regardless. And how do you feel that, or how do you see like it working in our favor, so to speak? I mean, I know it's going to be a fight regardless.
Yeah,
I know it's going to be a
it is
fight.
going to be a fight regardless, because there's always been a disparity, since the days of us being, slaves. We have been marginalized, and but one, I see the midterms as an answer for us to get power back. And I see us doing the coalition building that I referred to earlier in the conversation, where we're building bridges with people, that are strange bedfellows, people we may not always work with or want to work with, but because of the urgency of the situation, we know that we need to do the work. One of my favorite pairings was in the health equity fight was putting, Reverend Al Sharpton with Newt Gingrich, two people that ordinarily wouldn't have tons in common, but they aligned on a health issue. And so we were able to get it all the way up into front of Congress and get real changes on Capitol Hill. So look, health equity is unequivocally a civil right, and it's one of the most important things to us right now because we're in a bad place.
Very bad. And but the one thing I have noticed recently, at least within the Black community, is that when it comes to health and mental health, I've like, at least in the conversations I've had, or in things where people are actually, because it was taboo specifically for Black men to get any type of help, regardless. But I've noticed that we've altered our thinking for the better, of course, and definitely appreciate that.
Thank God.
When it comes to mental health as well, like I know it's not a tricky question, but it's like can you separate mental health and regular health to try to getting to where we need to be?
It's a very important combination. And look, nothing turns me on more than a brother that believes in mental health. Like, if you say you go to therapy, amen goes right there. Like, it's not taboo. It's a matter of life and death. We are in some times that we were not necessarily, and we've been through hell, but not everybody is built for this. And so to survive right now, we are not islands on our own. We need help. My mother, I was adopted as a baby. And my mother, the one that I told you about that was an artist, she, when I was a junior in high school, I was on a European soccer tour. I was a big soccer player. And I was on a European soccer tour, and I came back to the United States, and she was supposed to pick me up at the airport in Los Angeles. And she didn't show up. And something in my gut just knew something wasn't right. I went to my best friend's house at the time and just waited it out. And she ended up taking a bottle of pills, drinking, possibly a 6-pack. I don't know. She loved beer, and walking into the ocean. and I never saw her again. The last time I saw her was when she dropped me at the airport to go on the European soccer tour. And so I knew she was depressed because, look, when you move almost 20 times, as a kid, that's very traumatizing. But, you get to go to school, you can adapt to the extent that you can, and you get to at least be in an environment of engagement. But for my mom as an artist, it was really hard for her. And so I knew that she was depressed, but I thought that, there was a light at the end of the tunnel because she was getting help. Yeah. But no. So mental health to me has always been a critical in the work that I do now. Mental health is important, dealing with victims. How do you reconcile your fiance being shot 50 times on the day you're supposed to be married, and Nicole Bell? You can't just go through life without talking to somebody. You need help. And we don't always have the tools. A lot of people, myself included, for many years, I self-medicated. I haven't had a drink in 15 years, but there was a time when I would be drinking tequila all damn day. In the morning, noon, night, or self-medicating in some capacity. And so that is not who I am today, but I certainly know that a lot of people need a crutch. And if you don't have the tools to be able to figure out what a crutch is, people go to addictive things.
Yeah. Especially to the extreme at times as well.
Yeah.
Why do you think that we're more in tune with our mental health as a people?
Because we're resilient, and we've had to survive in some of the harshest, worst, degrading circumstances. And so we've had to find a way to survive, But look, right now, in America, it's bad. People are really regressing to places that are just not okay. And so that's why we're fighting so hard to get us out of this mess. And I do believe we will get out of this mess. It's almost like we're going to have to rebuild and in many ways start over. And, I'm not necessarily, well, I am a bit of a revolutionary, I'm not going to say burn it down, but I do believe we're going to have to restructure and recalibrate in a big way.
We could literally have a 9-hour conversation just on politics alone. So, but I'm going to avoid that because it's just so tricky, because I think that, and even before this administration, I just think it's a matter of people, I think, finally getting the chance to actually have a voice without feeling like they needed to.
Right.
Which is what I've noticed. And I think that that's definitely good. But at the same time, we still have the ones that are just steadfast and keeping things the way they are making it worse. So that way there is no change. And I'm ready for the midterms, and I'm hoping that everything, I'm not even going to say hoping, but I know that it's going to work out. I just want it to work out sooner than later, because as a dark-skinned Black man, and I tell people this all the time, I'm probably like a very endangered species. And the reason why I state that is because not only am I discriminated against outside of us, but also within us, because of the perceptions even within our community. And I know that I'm sick of it, but I have to deal with it because that's my thing. That's what I deal with every day. And when I say to people that they don't understand, everybody has their struggles. Not taking anything away, but specifically, and like I said, I can only speak for myself, but knowing that most of the people that you've represented, their families, were dark-skinned Black men. If you read the papers today, if you do anything that has anything to do with violence against us, it's usually against dark-skinned Black men. Like I said, I don't want to get on this high horse, be like, we're kings because we're not kings because we're being targeted. But,
people only target something that they want.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that they want as well. Yeah.
You, my dark skinned brothers, you're powerful, and so people are gonna try to take what you have, and destroy what you are, because they don't understand it and they want to be it. They emulate us, but they don't know how that should play out. And so they try to destroy us. But I love me some dark-skinned brothers.
We're the best.
You guys are definitely the best.
But like I said, I think it's good that we're starting to realize that aspect of ourselves when it comes to mental health, because I'll be 58 in 2 weeks. So
wow, go say.
I know how we came up in the 70s and how it was, because it's like these people think it's bad now, and it's like, no, it was much worse. And we was just coming out of the Civil War. I mean, the civil rights era, so to speak, when things wasn't. And like I said, we can just have a conversation, but let me get back to you. So your retreat that's coming up, what do you plan? Oh, actually, I might have to introduce you to one of my friends that just moved out there. And she also deals with mental health. Her name is Simone. You know what? I'm offline. I'm going to give you.
I would love to meet her.
She's
in Costa Rica, because I intend to look. I've been 7 times in the last year. I'm making some investments in this hotel because I love what they do there. And so please introduce me, please.
She was on my show like 3 weeks ago. So
wow.
So when you said Costa Rica, I was like, I'm
actually taking my son with me on the wellness retreat, because he one, I want him to go through a 4-day boot camp where I can whoop his ass. 2, I want he and I to bond. We've started training together. So several days a week, he and I train with a trainer. And it has been so bonding, like to be able to, and we're both very competitive. I bet him though, and this is the dumbest bet I ever made in my life. I bet him like a month ago that he couldn't lose 20 pounds. That brother lost that 20 pounds in 2 weeks. It was all friggin' water weight, I'm sure. But he lost the bet, and I put some crazy number on the table because I didn't think he could do it. And he did it. But he and I are going to go together to this wellness retreat. And one of the greatest things I've done with him is this health and wellness, because, as you mentioned earlier, I have a grandson now, Coda Jax. He's now 3. And
wait, hold on. You said COVID Jack?
Kota, K-O-T.
Oh, I thought that, I was like, okay.
Coda Jax.
Okay.
Yeah. He lives up the street. He goes to school on my block. He stays with me a few nights a week. That's my everything. My son, I was a single mom. All I did was work. When I started my career, I was working 7 days a week, all day, every day. And so
you don't do that now?
I do, but I make sure to make space for my peace of mind. My Zen is very important to me. It's very important to me. But it took a lot of hitting my head to understand the importance of Zen. But my son, because I wasn't there, he was essentially raised, by the streets. Yeah. And so he had a lot of hiccups. Hiccup after hiccup. He has been in the criminal justice system for years, but not anymore. He's an amazing father. He is now working. It's funny said. He's actually doing media. He is. I had a reporter from the New York Times earlier call me today and say, I saw your son on the press release as a contact. There's a funeral tomorrow for a 2-year-old baby that fell out of a 20-story window in Newark. And so my son is doing the press for the pastor that's delivering the eulogy and the family, because they're now trying to get legislation in this little baby's name, because the window guards, in a lot of our buildings they're not safe. And so my son is doing media, and it tickles me. But when this New York Times reporter called me earlier, I called my son so fast. I'm like, look, bro, you better not fuck up. My name is on this.
As long as he isn't Bronny James in comparison to LeBron James, because I'm using you as LeBron James. As long as he isn't Bronny James. No disrespect to the James, I apologize. But, Anyway, but I think that that's definitely fantastic. And
Yeah, I'm proud of him. We've been through it. We've had to fight the whole damn system. He had a self-defense case where he was charged with aggravated manslaughter for defending his life. We had to fight the whole state of New Jersey. We won, but the trauma that stays, you never unlearn that.
yeah.
And so seeing him as a father and seeing him find something that he loves and has watched me, he grew up in the movement since he was a baby. So he's been in these spaces, but he was always kind of turned off by it because the street was more intriguing to him, but no more.
Let me go back a couple of pages. Terry Williams was known for entertainment. So that means you worked in entertainment.
A lot of entertainment, but she also did corporate. She represented film companies. She represented brands. It was across the board.
Yeah, no, I do know that, but the only reason why I pose it like that is because starting out in entertainment, I can see why people leave, but I know that your trajectory wasn't the field itself,
right?
But what got you so focused within politics?
Yeah,
and like I said, it doesn't mean it's good. Like, it might sound obvious to people looking because it might be like because of the justice aspect, but it might not be. So I have to ask.
No, I mean, look, it's really simple. Reverend Sharpton, I since I've been with him since I was a baby, damn near, seeing us actually effect change in real time was exciting. I love adrenaline. Like, I do a lot of adrenaline driven things. Since I no longer drink, I don't do other stuff. I look for adrenaline. And to me, some of the cases that we're on, getting justice is, for me, it's adrenaline. That's that's my jam. And so, definitely got into the political piece because of Rev. But I've always seen myself, even as a little girl, I always saw myself in some capacity. Like, I remember when I was like maybe 4, I wanted to be a judge. And I think at the time that I could just help to bring controlled narratives to things where we don't have control. So I've always known that I would somehow gravitate to this place. And look, I don't mind entertainment. I think it's great. We need it. And I think entertainers are wonderful human beings. But my real love is business. It's politics. It's corporate, and the like. And let me be frank, we don't have the entertainers are not as active as they were in many years ago. Folks don't care. I don't know if they don't care. I don't know what it is, but it's just a different place. Everything is about, we're in the age of the internet. Everything is clout chasing and instant gratification and, likes, and it's that shit is played out.
That's a good segue into like what I'm thinking about as you say this, because I wouldn't say that the entertainers don't care. It's just a matter of whether social media and access, because there are people out there that want to do the things that we need, but they're being drowned out.
That's
not
right.
The entertainers.
Yeah, and let me take that back. I apologize for saying that, because you're right. I do believe entertainers care. They do not have the conduit to get, people don't want that necessarily. The record labels don't want you to be conscious. They want you to be in nigga bitch ho. That's what's making them money. And so until we have ownership, but that's why I said why I fuck with you and why I've always loved you, because it is the journalists and our voices of color in the media that are ultimately the griots, the storytellers, the ones that are going to get us out of this mess, because you all are able to share the stories of what we're going through. So, I do believe there will be a time, I see a shift where the influencers are not as, they now have influential people being influencers, people that are actually thinking, people. Then I see a shift to some degree. I'm hopeful.
Well, it's true, because I've been hearing stories like even with TikTok creators and people like people are like moving away from it because the money's not there anymore because, like you said, it's either clout or the access to get money without. And I'm gonna choose my words carefully, to make money without really doing much. And like I said, I'm not taking away from people that are making their money doing what they enjoy, but sometimes when you have no thought process and just do it, it deceives others into thinking that they can do the same thing. So we have all these kids, all these teenagers that's trying to be the next viral thing by doing stupid things and not realizing that that influencer that you're looking at that you think is making money isn't really making money. They have clout and that's about it. So there's only going to be one or two of you in order to be this, so popular and so, famous. But yet, you even have, like even Kai Cenat, he's taking a back seat. You have so many people that people don't understand burnout because social media is definitely at a peak that I'm pretty sure that anybody that we grew up with didn't anticipate.
You know what my son was laughing at earlier today? Because he called me because he was getting ready for this funeral that he's working tomorrow for the baby. And so I said to him, well, you should call all the local newsrooms. And Newark doesn't have a ton of press, so call all the assignment desks in New York City. And I started rattling off, and they're in my brain. I started rattling off all of the phone numbers for CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox 5, Pix 11. He's like, how do you know that? I'm like, bro, when you were a baby, I used to fax press releases to the assignment desk. That's how we got our news out. I would literally sit there and fax the assignment desk with the storyline. And so it just stuck in my brain. But now we are in an age where it's the internet, it's robots, it's AI, it's the instantaneous, I need it now, as opposed to when you and I were coming up, we worked hard. When I was an intern at the Terry Williams agency, I said it was boot camp. We worked morning, noon, and night. I don't see that hunger as much anymore from our young folks. And I think it's because they've inherited a mess.
Definitely.
They feel powerless and they don't know how to monetize the things that they're passionate about, because like what you just said, 1 in 10 persons on the internet makes it, hits, it's all smoke and mirrors. Yeah. And so, a lot of folks are just sort of giving up. And now with the advent of AI and robots, entry-level positions are just like dwindling, literally dwindling. I had a position available at my company for a senior vice president. And we put a ad on LinkedIn. Do you know by that night we had 65 applicants? People are looking for jobs.
Yeah.
People need jobs right now.
And especially like you said with the advent, like I've always been anti-AI. And when people ask you why, I've said because I saw the Terminator. I saw iRobot. I saw the movie. I'm like, that's where we're headed. So, but I've actually started to accept it only because, like, when I decided to start doing these again with the podcast, now I'm always writing out things, but then somebody suggested to me, I was like, AI can help you with summarizing, you can literally put the transcript in, it'll read it that quick and then come up with the summary.
That's right.
I'm like, whatever. The first one I did, I was like, I'm like, and the good thing is that it basically, I would say basically said what I would say, but the thing is, it's summarizing. So of course, if I'm summarizing, that's what it's doing. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing now is I'm utilizing that for that purpose now. So when I write my descriptions, and I just started doing clips and things of that nature, because, and even doing that, it gives suggestions. So I'm like, wow. Now see, I can get into this because it doesn't take away from what I'm doing. It just makes it easier. And I have to get back into the mindset of when my parents was growing up, they had the vinyl, then they had the 8-track, we had the cassettes, and they wouldn't accept it. So it's like, you know what? And all my friends have been trying to get me for years. You got it. I'm like, okay, I can accept from that level. What I can't accept is when people utilize AI to replace what they're doing as opposed to enhancing. I think if you can enhance it to work, because every publication I've worked at, I've found ways to make things easier. And the person that's above me or I report to would not want to accept it because I found a better way to do it. I got to do it the way that they want to do it. And I'm like, I get that, but if the work is being done and it's still efficient, like, why complain? And I had that, I shouldn't say it, but I had that issue at Black Enterprise. But I've been on Black Enterprise on and off for 13 years now. So I've been through more editors than some people went through dinner meals in the same amount of years. But anyway, and I say that to say that I had to accept AI once I figured that aspect out of it because I don't want it to replace what I do. I'm a creative person, so I have to create in my terms. But now that I'm using it for this purpose, and that's what I use AI for. Like when this interview is over, and then I start doing the clips, stuff like that, I don't have to worry about putting aside 5 hours so that way I can transcribe it. No, I don't have. Now I can just go to, well, I can't use Chat GPT because they just did that thing with Trump. But anyway, going to these different ones, having a summary. But what it does is that it makes me even more creative because then I'm gonna take the summary, put it in the way that I want it, and then get other ideas in order to get the clips that I would need in order to keep up with everyone else would do. I don't like doing clips. I want to do the interview over, next one.
It's a tool to make you better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it has to be authentic to your voice. One of the things that we did at ACTUM was we designed our own AI tool, and we used all of the voices of our clients. We fed it with a whole bunch of different, press releases, statements, bodies of work of our clients, so that it got to know whom we work with. And so now it's like really starting to evolve, and it's been an amazing tool. But it should never replace your brain. I was on New Year's, I lost my phone in a waterfall in Costa Rica. How romantic. But I was without a phone literally for 5 days. It might have been the best 5 days of my life. No scrolling, no robots, no. I actually had to use my brain. Like I literally had to think. And it was like, whoa, like that muscle memory was restored because I wasn't able to jump to the robot. It was pretty enlightening.
Your brain was probably like, wait a minute, I get to work again? Oh, okay.
Like, whoa.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. But is there anything that you would like to either talk about, or is there anything coming up that you'd like for people to know? Besides, the company becoming, $1 billion company within the next 2 weeks.
That's really my biggest focus is I would love to go sit on a hill somewhere in the next 20 years and just, reap the benefits of all my hard work. And so I'm going to keep grinding and working really, really hard and lift others as I ascend. That's the most important thing to me, is finding the younger voices. Who is the young Rachel? And by the way, if you know any, I'm looking for one. I'm trying to hire a VP and an SVP that were like me, hungry, love to create and provide narratives, know some about community engagement and knowing how to reach the right folks. So I'm looking for that hybrid. And, you wouldn't think it'd be so hard to find, but I'm kind of hard to find.
It's you we're talking about. So, I know I'm irreplaceable with my mindset and what the things I do. You can find other writers, but you can't find another Big CED.
No way. No way.
What, if you could do anything over again, what would it be and why?
If I could do anything over again, I would not have been a single mom. A young Black boy needs a father in his life. And so many of the directions that my son was steered in might have been circumvented if he had, a strong man in his life. So I would do that over again. I wouldn't do it over again because then I wouldn't have my son, but I would think about it differently, perhaps. And then, look, all of the bumps and bruises I've gained along the way from stupid shit I've done, I would probably redirect my mind to not do some of the stupid shit I've done. I've had a lot of hits and misses.
But in retrospect, because of some of the things you've been through, is the reason why you are who you are today.
Yeah.
So it could have changed the trajectory of like, who you are or who you became. And because sometimes I say the same things, and that's one of the reasons why I ask that question, because sometimes like that is what makes us the bad, because people always focus on the good things when it comes to success. But I always tell people like what I've done in my climb to my success is I saw what others didn't do correctly or what did wrong and knew what not to do from that aspect. Now I'm going to make my mistakes according to whatever I need to do, so that way I can be better in that aspect. And in some aspects it didn't work because I'm stubborn at times, but at least I know that, as opposed to thinking that it's somebody else's fault. Anything that happens within, even if somebody else did it to me, I always take responsibility, because I either put myself in that position or I allowed it to happen. And I try to let people like my niece, nephews, people that even look up to me, like I try to let them know that sometimes, like, taking accountability is probably the best thing you can do, because it makes you think. When you don't have no accountability, you don't care, because the next time you're gonna do the same thing, and you're gonna say however what you got said before. So
I don't want anybody around me that doesn't have scars. Like, if I can't get in the foxhole with you, you can get to stepping. I'm not interested. Now, I'm trying to change that in my personal life, because as a result of that philosophy, I've taken in plenty of stray cats. And so I'm trying to use a little more discernment about whom I let into my personal space, because when you're constantly trying to save people, it's just not, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, sometimes you have to take your business brain into your personal brain space, because they are not the same, especially when it comes to decisions, especially the decisions of the heart, or just
Amen goes right there.
We're at an age where we know that, so we can say that. So
That's
we might still stumble, but it's a matter of like trying to separate. But luckily for me specifically, because I do whatever I want, because I have no structure. But not having structure works for me. When I'm working at a company or I'm working under structure, I get confused.
What you're saying is lack of structure actually is structure, because it totally works for you. It's your structure.
Anything I've planned as far as companies or as far as work, either with minimal success or it didn't work. The things that I'm saying, I'm just going to do it. It worked. The industry co-sign, like I said, it turns 23 in a couple of days. I was just like, well, let's just do it. I never took a journalism class. It was just a matter of me just saying, I can do that. And then I've outlasted people who actually have degrees in journalism and things of that nature. But I also knew that my personality and my personality, as well as my wanting to do things, would drive me to the things that I wasn't able to do. Even to this day, I say to myself, like, and I'm pretty sure some of the editors at Black Enterprise probably still hates like the way I write or whatever, and they get mad every now and then. But it's worked. That's why I've been there for so long. There's a reason why I've been there for so long. Let me live. Let me be me.
And everybody.
Yeah. Well, I like to say everybody knows me. It makes it sound better.
Okay. I know you.
And that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. But thanks once again for your time, your words, your story. And like I said, I know we can go on literally for like the next 6 or 7 hours, but I know you got things to do, and
I got a plane to catch.
See, you know what? And I don't want to be the reason why, like, you got to catch another flight at another time and then be mad at me for like.
I honor you, brother. I'm really grateful for you. I want to see another 25 years. And however I can support and lift you, I'm here.
Find me a rich woman. That's how you can support.
I'm on it. Find me a rich man.
Hey, that's probably easier for me to do than for you to do, because
no stray cats.
Yeah, I'm going to say yeah, because some of them come with the things that you're trying to avoid. So you might have a better chance, better luck at finding me somebody than me finding. You know some rich people, but I wouldn't even hang out with them. So I wouldn't put you through that. And, so I get it. So
I love you, brother.
I love you as well. Thank you once again. Oh, if people are trying to get in touch with you,
Yes.
is there any way they can?
The best way, all of my social is the same. It's Rachel Noerd, RachelNoerd. And our Actum website is actumllc.com, ACTUMLLC.com.
Once again, everybody, for all of those who stayed until the end, thank you. I'd like to thank Rachel for definitely, stopping by and granting me with the privilege of, because there's many people that want to talk to her that can't get that opportunity. So I'm definitely grateful. And like I said, I'm grateful for and I'm going to say friendship, because I know in this industry, like, people use friends in a way that shouldn't be used. But I also feel that if you have a certain relationship with people, that, yeah, and like I said, I know that if I need something, I can go to you within reason, and vice versa. So I do appreciate that. And good luck with Actum becoming the $2 billion company within 3 weeks. I keep putting on so that way, put it in motion.
See you later.
But for everyone, thank you. This is Big Said. My friends are better than yours. And if you think I'm wrong, show me your friends and I'll show you mine. Until the next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You take it easy. I can't even get this. I can't get this to stop. There we go.